And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head the day. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Give me your boom, boom, boom.
That was Redman. He's Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. And we are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio. But you know what? We have an announcement. Yeah! We're on TV! We made it! We officially sold out. We officially sold out.
The trunk.
4 years ago in this very room, we started a podcast.
In the trunk.
And then that podcast over time got a little popular. And then they decided to turn it into a radio show. That was probably a bad decision.
That was on September 28th, as a matter of fact.
That was probably a bad decision. And then somehow, somewhere, they decided to put us on ESPN2. We'll take this 2-hour radio show, cut it down into a half-an-hour presentation, and we'll put it on ESPN2. Bristol executives have made a terrible decision.
But we'll take it.
We have sold out. This used to be a real Pop the Trunk production. You used to carry a bat. You used to sing the intro. You don't do that anymore, Jalen.
I know. I sold out.
Why?
Because my alter ego, our caricature, our logo carries the bat. You don't see Michael Jordan walking around all day with his tongue out.
You did it for 3 years, Jalen.
I know, but now it's a different stage. I will pull it out if and when needed.
Here's another thing is something else really changed recently around here that I want to talk to you about on record. You started preparing and researching. Like, I'm afraid that we're going to change who we are now. You used to never prepare. You used to never be on time. You would never prepare. I would never know if you're going to show up or when we're going to record. And now look at you. You're so buttoned up now.
Not only did we not prepare, we were going to each week not knowing what day or time we were going to even record.
There wasn't a piece of paper. We didn't even know what we were going to talk about.
And I remember there were times when we joked about being the Dr. Dre album of podcasts. Well, we might do 2 a month. Then we might do 2 a week.
Probably not. Do you know how I know I sold out?
How?
I was at my house after a long day of work, took care of some babies, watched some TV. I went into my bathroom to brush my teeth, and there was a box right next to the sink. It was purple. And
Purple Rain album.
It was literally glowing. It had sparkles all over it. I was like, I didn't buy this. What are these doing here? My wife was like, oh, I put that there. Do you know what they were?
What?
Crest white strips.
Yeah.
Crest white strips. I put them away, didn't use them, and then guess what? The next night, they were right there next to the sink once again. Finally, I used them. I sold out. Welcome to White Teeth Jacoby.
Good for you. And also, credit to your wife, because your teeth were yellow.
Super yellow. They were like brown.
Absolutely. And it's great to have someone that you care about that will represent your best interest when you're not fully representing right. And she did that.
You sold out too, Jalen. You sold all the way out.
I stopped carrying a bat.
Yup.
I don't want to sing anymore.
Why not?
Because I'm trying to save my voice.
For what? What are you saving your voice for?
Have you seen Hubie Brown? He's 80 plus doing this job. That's what I want.
No, you don't, Jalen. You don't want to work.
I need to save my voice. That's why. There's
no chance you make it to 80 anyway. I'm sorry to break it to you now. Another way I know you sold out, you never cared about the background. You never cared about anything that was on the wall. You never said a single word. And the last week, if you put half the effort into your NBA career that you've put into the background, you'd be in the Hall of Fame. You'd still be on the Clippers. You'd still be on a team. Like, I've never seen you work so hard in my entire life.
This is true. But it's important, since we're going to be on TV, that each visual is not only a sight gag, but it's well thought out, because the people expect that from us, since we're not in the trunk anymore.
Okay, so we're not in the trunk anymore. We're on radio. On ESPN Radio right now. And we're going to be on TV. What time does it come on?
It comes on...
It's on ESPN2.
Before or after Mike and Mike?
Technically, it's after everything, but it's a little later.
What about after First Take?
It's later.
So when are we on? What about Russillo and Cannell?
After that.
Levitard.
After.
Highly questionable.
After.
Around the Horn.
After.
That's not PTI.
After.
You got to come on before the flagship Sports Center, the mothership.
After that.
All right, we have live games.
The games. It'll be in the games. We'll be after
come
the
on
games.
before the games?
We'll be after the games.
After the games?
After the games.
Are we not?
We're after the Sports Center after the games.
Are you sure we on?
Scott Van Pelt is already in bed by the time we come on.
Oh, okay.
And that's good, though, because you know why I like our time slot? Which all the executives are asleep. So they can't catch us, and we can't get fired.
And also, too, in that time slot, it allows us to not only talk sports, but pop culture. And that's important to us. And we're going to get the people what they want.
And we're not the cleanest show. You know what I mean? So I think that's an appropriate hour for us to broadcast. Another thing you can do is you can always DVR us and listen and watch us whenever, and that'll be fine. Also, if you're in Hawaii right now, first of all, you live in a great life, and your life just got better because we're prime time in Hawaii.
Yes, we do.
We made it. Like
That's
the
how we do
Hawaiians,
it.
we're hot in Hawaii right now.
That's because our boy Stan from Sports Center pulled some strings. You know what I mean? That's how we do it at the Worldwide Leader.
And Neil probably did more so because he's the Hawaiian.
Neil, exactly. Yeah. But you sold out in another way, too. Your wardrobe. You actually care about what you're wearing.
First of all, I'm wearing a $50 jacket right now. Okay? I'm wearing a $50 jacket. That gong right next to you cost 3 times as much as this jacket did. So don't even blame me. You're wearing a sweatshirt on TV.
I am. I guess that's what this is.
So I mentioned earlier that you really put a lot of thought into the background behind
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
And there's one thing on that background.
Do you see Charlie's Angels right there?
There's one thing
Do you see the
behind
Jackson
you
5
that
right there?
You sent an email right after the game, and you told one of our colleagues,
You got the breaks.
I need
You got the breaks.
this.
You got the
I
breaks.
need this.
It wasn't after the game. It was actually after the picture went viral. It was way before the game.
And it was, I need the picture of Cam and Jeezy and Future on the wall. Not only do you want it on the wall, it had to be big. And now look at it right there. Gigantic picture of Cam Newton and 2 rappers on the wall. And it wasn't just that, is you asked for it on Sunday, and you would not shut up about it. You just wouldn't shut up about it. And I think a lot of your passion about putting that picture up on the wall had something to do with what Cam addressed yesterday. Let's listen to Cam.
You know, I'm an African-American quarterback that may scare a lot of people because they haven't seen nothing that they can compare me to.
Why was it so important that you have that picture in the studio?
That picture represents a seminal moment in our country, and it's not just for blacks. It represents unity and how far we've come. Yet, we still have far to go. You have a quarterback in Cam Newton who happens to wear number 1, who's on the field prior to an NFC championship game with 2 fellow individuals from Atlanta, Future Hendrix, Young Jeezy, the Snowman. Both, we know, are not only artists, but some of their lyrics can be viewed as subjective.
I would challenge you to find a single song by either of those artists that doesn't mention the distribution of cocaine.
Correct. And or lean, and or perk. So why does that picture mean so much? It's because instead of having laminates around their necks, they have gold chains. Instead of having restrictions on the field prior to the game for the best player in the game who just so happens to be black, they took that moment and they did that picture. It wasn't just a sight gag. That was real. And what makes it real is I was trying to figure out what makes Cam special and so unique. The narrative of people don't like Cam Newton, that's off.
Well, he just said people are scared of me. And I think that this has gained up a little bit of steam, and especially in the last 48 hours. But, like, who are these people? And where are they? And where is all of this coming from? Because I do kind of feel like it's straw men a little bit. Like, one woman, 2 people wrote letters to newspapers. Like, let's just all slow down on how everyone is scared of Cam.
Look at the national landscape. Any newspaper, any website, no one, absolutely no one, is writing negative things about Cam Newton right now.
They're not. They're all writing positive things about Cam Newton against these people that hate him, but I don't know where these people that hate him are. And what is he guilty of? Dancing? Is that what he's guilty of? Smiling?
And I like a couple of the nicknames we've coined for Cam. This is Cam's era, saying he's camera ready. The reason why I said he's so polarizing, actually, is he's really unifying us and we're not realizing it. He's a player, again, that just so happens to be a black quarterback, a minority at that position. Blacks have been a minority at that position, a prestige, powerful position in football, America's most popular sport for a long time.
And the numbers on that have shifted. There are a lot more black quarterbacks in the league. In fact, a black quarterback started the last 4 Super Bowls.
Absolutely. So at 6'5", 250, running a 4.5 40, how is he unifying us? He's the same person that you see with a Colgate smile in a Dannon commercial.
Crest white strip smile, you would say.
Absolutely. Also the same individual you'll see with a Beats by Dre commercial with his shirt off.
Don't forget the Greek yogurt. It looks good. Oikos.
And so what is original about him is not that he's necessarily black. We've seen quarterbacks make it to the Super Bowl. Doug Williams, Donovan McNabb, Steve McNair. We've seen a black quarterback be co-MVP, Steve McNair.
Win a Super Bowl.
I've seen one of the best celebratorial players to ever do it play football. He was Deion Sanders, who was a cornerback. What makes Cam so special as a football player is this. Normally the guy that sticks his chest out and says, "Look at me," is not the best player.
Cam's the best player.
In the NFL.
He's going to be the MVP.
And so let me break down what makes him unique as a football player. He has an opportunity to be the first quarterback, the absolute first, to win the prestigious Heisman Trophy, a national championship, and a Super Bowl. And I'm going to add something else to that. Not only is he going to win the Super Bowl, get ready for this. Next Sunday, he's also going to be the MVP of the game.
He's going to win the Super Bowl. He's going to be the MVP of the game. He's going to be the MVP of the league. And he is like nothing we've ever seen before, but it's not because he dances. He's like nothing we've ever seen before, not because he smiles and he takes pictures on the sideline. He's like nothing we've ever seen before because he's so big, he's so aggressive with the run, the way they design the offense around his skill set. He can throw it 50 yards on a dime, and he could get a power run for 3 yards up the middle if he wants.
Now, as a football player, normally playing the position of quarterback, when you have a few of these things in his past, that person ends up as a 30 for 30, the kind of athlete that didn't reach his potential. He becomes a Marcus Dupree. When you look at some of the things that he's been involved in. At Florida, basically kicked out of school and arrested for stealing a laptop. Also, he faced a possible expulsion on 3 separate instances of academic cheating.
Okay, now I think there's the defense of, well, we all do dumb things in college, but we're all not the level of athlete that Cam is. So I think there's a little bit more responsibility for him to sort of avoid that kind of thing.
And for whatever it's worth, who was he backing up at Florida? Tim Tebow, one of the greatest collegiate players of all time. And guess what? He's doing a great job for ESPN.
Sure is. Shout out to Tim Tebow.
But he's not in the NFL anymore.
Not yet. He was on the Eagles last year for like 2 days.
So was I. Okay. Next, his dad, Cecil Newton, allegedly was looking for $120,000 to $180,000 for him to attend Mississippi State. Allegedly. That's kind of cheap for a player that good.
I was going to say, it seems like a bargain.
So he
also a big window.
So he gets to the league from being the #1 overall pick. The team isn't doing as well as it's doing now. One of the veterans on the team, Steve Smith, who's still a really productive player, hopefully he comes back next year, chided a young Newton for pouting on the bench. You can see multiple pictures and footage right now online of him pouting on the bench, sideline, and or in press conferences.
And as you tell the Cam narrative, it's important to recognize that he tore up the league at first. Like he was like something that the league hadn't seen yet, especially in that first season, especially in that first group of games, and then he had that sophomore slump, as they call it.
So what do the Carolina Panthers do? They make it his team. So the vets that were there prior, Steve Smith, D'Angelo Williams, Greg Hardy, they're no longer there. And you know what? All of them were starting for other NFL teams this year. Kelvin Benjamin got injured, his #1 receiver last year. And the talk was Cam Newton is going to struggle this year. Where are the weapons? Then he emerges from a guy, as you mentioned, as a rookie. First game, 400 yards passing. That's an NFL record. So he came onto the scene as a number 1 pick, ready to light the league on fire. Now, normally that player who has the lineage and history that I just acknowledged is not something else that can't be forgotten in the Cam Newton scenario.
What's that, Jalen Rose?
A champion. An ultimate champion. This dude has been the best since high school. He's the number 2 dual threat quarterback. He went to Blinn College, won a championship in JUCO.
That shouldn't be overlooked. I mean, he was forced to do a year in JUCO, went there, won the championship.
Absolutely. Went to Auburn,
What
as I
happened
mentioned.
next?
Won the Heisman, won a national championship.
In 1 year.
Now, all of a sudden, he's the first quarterback to throw 30 TD passes and rush for 10 touchdowns. So we have a duality here. He's the ultimate dichotomy on the field and off the field. And you know what else he's doing as a franchise QB? He's at the strip club to go watch Rick Ross perform during the season.
Not really hiding about it either.
You know what else? You know what else he's doing? He's going to watch his alma mater Auburn play, and the fan trolls him. You know what? He cusses the fan out,
Knowing that there's cameras around too.
And so usually that player who is this inclusive, he goes to the press conference. You could tell he's conscious about his fashion. I've seen his ankles multiple times. I've seen him wear the kind of outfits that he know that's going to garner our attention. But what he has, besides being a champion, is flavor. That's why really we can't put Cam Newton into a box, just like we can't put hip-hop into a box. Hip-hop has changed from playing in the arenas to what's being played to now it's being played during plays.
Here's the question is what are we mad at? Like, what are people mad at, and who are those people? Are they mad because he dances? Are they mad because he celebrates after he succeeds? Are they mad because he smiles? Are they mad because he wears silly clothes? Like, what is the problem here?
Chuck D said it best, and this relates to the Cam Newton topic, okay? He said, they play the music. It's time to play the lyrics. That's what Cam represents, the lyrics. That's what this picture symbolizes. It's a seminal moment in the NFL, and Cam Newton is uniting us all.
Jalen, they broke some news in the NBA. They've announced the All-Star reserves for the Eastern and Western Conference. And you know
Hercules!
You know what? Wasn't that exciting? But let's take you through it. Just to refresh your memory, let's start with the Eastern Conference. You've got starters voted in by the fans: Melo, Paul George, LeBron, Kyle Lowry, Dwayne Wade. Joining them will be your man, Andre Drummond, Paul Millsap, Chris Bosh, Jimmy Butler, Isaiah Thomas, DeMar DeRozan, and John Wall. I believe I said Isaiah Thomas wouldn't make the team, but look at him. Here he is. Only real person left out in the cold is Pau Gasol. He's fine. He's been before. He'll be all right. It's no big deal.
We did this on Countdown, and I got 13 of the 14 correct in each conference. The one I got wrong was actually in the East. And for me, I think Pau Gasol should be in over Paul Millsap.
You think so?
I really like Millsap and how he's developed.
You can make a case for either one. It's not really that.
Well, he used to be a stretch mark 4. He changed his body. He improved his range. And he's become just as productive, if not more so, than Al Horford. But I was just watching a Hawks game recently, and he had 2 or 3 layups to tie and or win the game. End of the fourth quarter, end of overtime against the Clippers. And he missed. And I think Pau Gasol would have finished those plays. And when I've seen Pau play, in particular against Detroit, Andre Drummond, who's another all-star, he shredded Drummond with 30. So I just think Pau deserved the nod over Millsap. Other than that, I'm fine with the team.
Before I tell you who the Western Conference reserves are, I have one question. Who's that looking in my window?
Pow.
That's what I thought. Western Conference starters reminding you are Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook. That is a lineup. That is a lineup right there. Those are just the starters.
It is. That's exactly how I would have had them. Mm-hmm. I have two soapbox comments. One, we should end the fan vote for anyone that says it's a popularity contest and the fans are getting what they want. That's who deserves to start in the All-Star game. You sound ignorant. This is not an election where you only can vote one time. When one person can vote 10,000 times, that doesn't necessarily represent the pulse of the people. That's one.
Now, the reserves are not picked by the fans. So they right a lot of the fans' wrongs, we'll say. And let's announce who those people are. Draymond Green, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMarcus Cousins, also known as
Boogie!
Anthony Davis, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, and James Harden.
Here's what I don't like about what the NBA did starting last year. They continue to marginalize the center position. Mm-hmm. In the East, Carmelo Anthony, Paul George, and LeBron James. You know what position they all played in high school? Small forward. You know what position they play in the league?
Yeah.
Small forward. I don't think Andre Drummond should be going after the same spot as Carmelo Anthony.
LeBron James shouldn't be in Andre Drummond's spot. It doesn't really make that much sense.
And then we ask the questions, why do bigs struggle to get head coaching jobs? Because a lot of times,
I don't ask that. I never thought of that, really.
it came up a lot when Patrick Ewing was trying for head coaching
He's been
jobs.
trying for head coaching jobs for a long time.
Because-
Someone must know something about Pat
No,
Ewing.
because the assumption is when you're that big and you walk into a room, you have people that are making decisions looking up and it looks a little awkward and people get uncomfortable.
See, I refuse to believe that would hold somebody back from a position that they really deserve.
But
I mean, really?
But also, the big man is not necessarily respected for not only his production but his intelligence.
That's what I would say. I would lean more toward people look as the guards, as the floor generals. You know what I mean? The ones that set up the offense. You don't really see bigs pointing. Hey, you go over here. You go over here. You know what I mean? I think that bigs are looked at as loafy dudes that run to the block and put their hands up and wait for the ball.
And this is where I give Adam Silver a lot of credit. He did a nice semantic that nobody paid attention to.
What was that?
I've been watching Kobe Bryant play for 19 years. And you know what position he played each of those years? Shooting guard. Right?
Is it too?
This year, Kobe was mentioned on the All-Star ballot as a forward.
Well, I've got two reasons why. One is Steph Curry, and two is Russell Westbrook. Those are the reasons why that's the way that went down.
Absolutely.
And
And
can I
I'm
say
not mad at it. I'm giving credit to the league for doing such.
20-second timeout. I want to tell you somewhere Adam Silver missed it. Somewhere Adam Silver made a mistake, and it has to do with this All-Star game. Do you know who the halftime performer is?
I know Beyonce will make an appearance. I know Rihanna may make an appearance.
No, do you know who it is? The halftime performance at the NBA All-Star Game 2016 in Toronto.
Future Hendrix.
Nope.
Young Jeezy.
Nope.
Drake. It's
Nope.
Toronto.
Nope. Ladies and gentlemen, your halftime entertainment in the 2016 NBA All-Star
Melanie
Game
Fiona.
is Sting. Everybody get fired up! Here comes Sting! Woo! Sting, baby! I'm trying to think of a Sting song.
So you don't think Jimmy Butler?
They all have Sting.
Or DeMarcus
but when you're trying to
Cousins?
get fired up on the way to the game, I'm bumping that Sting in my beats.
I'm not a fan of that choice, but I am a huge fan of Sting. I really am.
Okay, name 3 Sting songs. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Name 3 Sting songs.
It doesn't matter. It's
Is
irrelevant.
it one like about Africa or something?
Here's another NBA comment that they aren't getting right.
Before you move on, I do want to say Adam Silver did have a TMZ interview, which I was surprised he was like enjoying it, which I liked. He was giving the guy time. He wasn't trying to move on, and he was being asked about Blake and whatnot. And he did ask about Sting, and Adam Silver himself said, "I'm trying to get Drake." He's like, "We're trying to work a Drake thing out."
You know how to get Drake, right?
move the All-Star game to Toronto?
No, just write a check.
Just the money.
Yeah,
So I'm sure Drake's people are in contact with the NBA right now.
How about this?
And they're like, "You're really not going to have me perform?
Drake
You have Sting?"
is an ambassador of the Toronto Raptors. Like I was saying during the Cam topic, there has been an evolution that I'm proud of in our country.
Sting has game though.
You see how the cachet and the popularity of artists
Sting can dunk.
have now attached them to teams.
Sting is wet.
You see it with a couple of guys in the NBA and the NFL.
Sting will cross you over.
But the other thing is the playoff seeding. It should be the best 16 teams in the playoffs.
Oh, well, there's some breaking
record-wise.
news about that too, Mr. Rose. It's just been announced that for the first time in a league where they kind of like use as a little test kitchen for the NBA, in the WNBA, the top 8 teams are going to make the playoffs, regardless of conference.
You know what I like about women's basketball? It has been more progressive than men's basketball. Look no further than collegiate basketball at the shot clock. Their game is actually faster. Look no further than the playoff seeding. You just mentioned it. And it totally makes sense, and I support that.
You know, I'm a serious journalist. You know that about me, right?
Sometimes.
I'm a very serious journalist. So I did some reporting.
Oh, you got your Walter Cronkite on.
Got my Cronkite at Cronkite. Call me Walter Cronkite.
Got it.
Okay. Walter Cronkite did some research. I found out about the Gronk party ship. Are you familiar with the Gronk party ship?
I'm not.
You're not familiar. So
I'm
let me explain.
as familiar with the Gronk party
I know a
ship
lot about the Gronk party
as
ship.
I am with Star Wars.
Okay.
That's how much
okay.
I care about it.
Okay. Rob Gronkowski, you're familiar with him, right?
Yes.
Remember the guy that got you suspended for 3 days from ESPN?
Yes,
you remember?
indeed.
You remember him?
The best tight end in the NFL.
Perhaps ever.
Acknowledged meathead.
Let's remember, you got suspended for talking about Gronk. So don't get fired here. All right, they just put us on TV. They can take us down that fast. The Gronk party ship is now open for business for this summer, and the Gronk party ship, they've detailed exactly what you can get. Let me just read you a little bit statement about what to expect in the Gronk party ship. It's time to party. It's time to rock. But more importantly, it's time to get gronked. Rob Gronkowski and his family want you to grab your sunnies, your swimsuits, your babes and bros for one HE double hockey stick of a shindig sailing down the coast. It's time to go big or go home because we're not throwing a 3-day party you've always dreamed of.
So you mean to tell me there's supposed to be women out there to say, you know what? Let's have a girls' night out. Let's have a girls' weekend.
Girls' weekend.
And we're going to go to the Gronk party bus. Not going to be able to do it.
Not only was that kind of interesting, I was like, oh, I wonder what the sort of female market is here, but they have a family suite. And you know me, I've got children, lots of them, too many. I've got extra. And I was like, well, perhaps this is the type of place that I could take my son. He's 2.5. This seems like they've got family suites. It seems like a family environment.
You're from the East Coast. You love Boston. You love the Patriots.
I love the Patriots. I love Gronk. So I called up just to see. I called up the hotline.
You're something else.
Just to see what they had, right? So I called up and I was like, what's the pricing and what do you have available? They actually have limited spots. Like, this is kind of a hot ticket. It is. It's hard to get a ticket. For the Gronkowski party ship. I called up and I was like, I know you have family suites. I've got a 2.5-year-old son. What do you think about, me bringing him? She's like, well, we don't have an age restriction, so he's welcome to come, but, we have other cruises that might be more appropriate. And I was like, well, why is that? And then she said, quote, it's going to be kind of a party atmosphere. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, there'll be musical performances. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And I finally got her to say, there's going to be a lot of drinking involved. So on the Gronk party ship, they have some activities I want to tell you about. Okay? They have a flip cup tournament. Do you know how to play flip cup?
The only place I would want to be with Gronk and a ship's involved is Gilligan's Island.
Why is that?
Because he'll make it fun.
He'll make everything fun. Gronk is fun.
He'll turn it into a blast. He'd invent games. This sounds like an invented game.
The flip cup is not something that I'm very well versed in. I know basically how it works, but it's basically like a drinking game, a college drinking game.
You know what? This doesn't sound like a diverse party ship. I would love.
What are you trying to say?
I would love.
What are you trying to say about Gronk's party ship?
I would love afterwards to get the analytics,
Like the demographics.
to break down the demo of individuals that attend.
Well, there will be some black people on board, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm gonna give you the list of entertainers, and we're gonna play a game called Does Jalen Rose Know Who These Entertainers Are? Right?
And also, tickets range from $925 to $4,000 per person.
I asked about that. That's not per night. That's for the entire experience. Flo Rida, have you heard of him?
I have. Platinum selling, possibly diamond artist.
Oh, you know a lot about Flo Rida. Red Foo?
Nope.
You know him. Party Rock is in the house tonight. Whatever. No.
I've heard the
He's
record.
a tennis player, something like that.
That's one of those records
I've heard of him.
that I've heard it so much that I know the words.
Remember, if you're listening to this on ESPN Radio, we're old. You know what I mean? We're not that cool. What about Blau? B3LAU.
No.
Waka Flocka is going to be there.
I like Waka Flocka.
What? How did How did he sign up for this? Like how much? Like what? And why is he listed fourth?
Because
This
he go
doesn't
hard
seem-
in the paint.
This just doesn't seem on brand for Waka Flocka. Like he's gonna tell when he gets off the Gronk party ship, he's gonna call his manager. He's gonna right the second he gets on, he's gonna call his manager and be like, you know what you signed me up for?
Do you know
do you
what-
know what's happening here? Do you know what I'm surrounded by right now?
Do you know what's on brand with an artist? How much he's being paid to be there. And he and his agent got a check for him to agree.
Let's just go through these quickly. Sammy Adams,
Nope.
Brooke Evers,
Nope.
Brazabel,
Nope.
Dante,
Nope.
Costa,
Nope.
Big Rock Show.
Definitely no.
This one, Headphone Disco.
No.
So here's one thing else I want to tell you about the Gronk party ship.
That sounds like a whack Coachella.
It's a no-cella. That's what this is. It's a floating whack Coachella. Here's one thing about this is if you have a corkage fee if you bring liquor on board, which makes sense. Sure, it's $15 for this, $20 for that, $30 for that. And they explicitly tell you that boxed wines are not allowed on board. This is a classy establishment. This is a really classy establishment.
Here's what I don't get. Is the goal to make money? Is the goal to party? Is the goal to find people to party with?
Okay, what do you think the answer is, knowing what you know about Rob Gronkowski?
I would think he's trying to have as many new women come to his party on the boat. So now he has his smorgasbord of people to choose from.
Don't get fired. I believe that Rob Gronkowski himself has very little to do with the organization of this party ship. That's what I'm just going to say. I'm going to say that the other Gronks might have enjoyed this a little bit more because this is the only 3 days where the last name Gronkowski really does something for you. You know what I mean? Did you also know that the Patriots met with baby Gronk, Glenn Gronkowski? They're looking into him.
But this is an important conversation because...
Is it?
No, I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because as an athlete or a public figure, you are what you portray. And who you are when you're on outside of your home versus who you are behind closed doors is now how we're going to project and judge you. If you don't play like you're perfect and then you make a mistake in the wrong place at the wrong time on the wrong day, people will give you a pass more freely. But when they feel like you act holier than thou and you make a mistake or a bad decision, then people, they're not as lenient. So for Gronk, he's owned. I'm a great football player. I'm the best tight end in the game. I'm not Tom Brady. I like to have a good time. I'm living a single life. I'm carefree and fun.
Very fun.
Yes, this adult entertainment stars wearing my jersey online. Yes, I'm doing me. Yes, after we lose a Super Bowl, even though I have a broken arm, I'm doing WWF wrestling with someone on stage.
Now, when you are a public figure, and it's important what you say, and it's important that you say what you mean, because you said something earlier. You said your favorite Coldplay song was what?
More Than a Woman.
There's not even a Coldplay song with the word woman in the title. It just doesn't exist. And that is what you will get when you listen to Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio until we get canceled. Jalen Rose, we have new information about the Blake Griffin incident. If you've been under a rock for the last couple of days, Blake Griffin punched the assistant equipment manager in the face while he was at a restaurant in Toronto. Now we know a little bit more about that evening. We know that it started across the street. Let's see. According to several witnesses, Griffin and the equipment assistant were seen fighting outside of Soto restaurant in Toronto on January 23rd.
T-Dot.
Before the fight, witnesses say Griffin's crew was spotted at Coco Lezone, I want to say, across the street. Now, what does that tell you? Also, the group had a couple of rounds of drinks at the first location. Now, I did some research because I'm a very, serious journalist. I went to the Soto website because we had a conversation yesterday off wax, and it was like, maybe this isn't a real restaurant. Maybe this is one of those restaurants that turns into a nightclub at night. There's a lot of those in New York. It's like, hey, after about 10 o'clock, they move out the tables. Maybe this was a nightclub environment because having a physical altercation at a seated table just seems strange to me. Well, it's not. This is a get a reservation, chandeliers. They talk about wine. Like this is a nice restaurant with paintings on the wall, not too big. This is sort of an establishment where you take a date there and then you get the check and you're like, ooh, like oh.
Like I was paying $50 per glass of wine.
Whoa.
Those appetizers cost $200.
Whoa. And we got a little more information too, Jalen Rose. Los Angeles Times report is telling us that it began with a routine good-natured teasing that got out of hand. The Times says things got heated both inside the restaurant and out front, and that Griffin punched Testy multiple times. There's so many things I don't understand about this.
Well, what I do understand is I don't want anybody hitting me in the face. You see?
Too pretty. Too pretty.
And plus I'm wearing glasses.
And makeup.
Exactly. The thing that really strikes me about this, and by the way, if I'm the Clippers, I suspend Blake Griffin each game he misses without pay. That's how serious I take this. Because this is clearly his friend who's also a team official, which also makes him an employee of the Clippers and a representative of the NBA.
Can I say something? Unpopular opinion alert. Ready? I think the fact that it's his friend makes it much less serious to me. And let me explain. I think there was this other incident where he allegedly got into an altercation with a stranger that was taking a picture of him in a nightclub. And I think that...
And by the way, you're a creep if you take a picture of somebody and don't ask.
I know you feel that way, and I understand that. But here's the thing. I kind of feel like starting an altercation with a stranger exhibits a different level of immaturity than the escalation of just a routine ribbing between friends.
But
because we've all been in those situations with our friends. Someone says something, you say something back. It's kind of like what I said about slapboxing. I never slapbox. You know why? Because it just escalates and escalates and escalates.
And you end up like Josh Smith.
Yeah, exactly. And then you end up on the Rockets scoring buckets. But
he's not scoring buckets.
Oh, he had a good game. He had a good game.
He's not scoring buckets.
He had a good game.
He's shooting to the 20 percentile.
So here's my question. DeAndre Jordan is being investigated. So DeAndre Jordan must have been there.
Keep getting them checks, DeAndre. I see you came back and Chris Paul promised to put you in a State Farm commercial. But
that was definitely part of the deal.
But you had to agree to dress up like a woman.
I like that he's dressed like a woman. I thought he did a really good performance too. It's hard. You know, athletes aren't actors.
But this is the fun part about that commercial to me, and it shows you how Chris Paul is the star. DeAndre comes downstairs and says, I can't locate my rings. Damian Lillard, the baby, says, I want a ring. KG kisses his ring.
I'll tell you what happened.
Chris Paul never acknowledges that he doesn't have a ring either.
The first version of the script says, I lost my ring too, Chris Paul, right? And then Chris's agent looked at it and was like, no,
y'all got us with the Steph Curry going up the escalator when we was going down.
Not this time, guys. Not this time. We're gonna erase that from the script and we'll reshoot. DeAndre Jordan is there. And a fight starts between these two human beings. Why can't DeAndre Jordan break it up? And is he not trying to break it up?
And DeAndre Jordan...
Do these people not have cell phones? Why am I not watching this by now?
Probably one of the most athletic and largest human beings on the face of the earth.
Something tells me he can break up a fight.
He could break up a fight between two guys that are his friends.
He could probably pick up Matthias and hold him up high enough so Blake couldn't reach him.
That just so happen to be smaller than he is.
Exactly. So here's my question for you. He's being investigated. He gets the knock on the hotel room door. League investigators. That's how I imagine it happens. They sit him down, and they're like, so what happened, DeAndre? He's in a pretty tough spot. Does he tell the truth? Does he say, yes, Blake Griffin punched this guy in the face? What if something that he says isn't backed up by something that Blake says?
This is why you tell the truth, because the cover-up, we know this.
Always.
It's always worse than the crime.
Always worse than the crime.
And when you come out and you say something that's not accurate, you know what the restaurant's going to do. You know what's going to happen in the street. A video's going to emerge.
It's going to emerge.
And we're a visual society. And I've said it multiple times. The heinous thing that Ray Rice did to his now wife, I truly believe if it was not on video, he probably would have gotten another opportunity to play in the NFL.
I believe that too. And the extremely heinous things that were detailed from the Greg Hardy incident, if they were on video, he'd be in jail.
And how about this? Greg Hardy's incident was not video, but he should be in jail anyway.
Sure. Yeah, just on the strength of it. But Blake Griffin, I feel like, is taking a little too much heat for this. You know what I mean? Oh, should they trade him? What should the Clippers do with Blake? They need to suspend him forever. He's whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's not, I'm looking at this like, because they had this relationship, I'm curious to see if they end up sort of like back together, because he's not being fired by the Clippers. That's already been released.
Nobody, maybe one article, has come out and said they should trade Blake Griffin.
I've been seeing it around.
If you think that, you need to pay closer attention to NBA basketball.
He's not going to be traded.
LeBron James averaged 28 and 5 in 2012. That's what Blake averages now. You know what happened that season? He won MVP. Blake Griffin is really good at basketball. One of the best, if not the best, power forward in the league.
Here's my question for you. This is only news because Blake Griffin broke his hand. If he doesn't break his hand, it just gets swept under the rug. Here's my question. What happens if he doesn't break his hand? He gets in a fight with the assistant equipment manager. Obviously, the franchise is gonna find out. Obviously, Doc and Steve Ballmer and all the decision makers are gonna find out. What happens then?
If he doesn't break his hand, we don't get the uproar. And Blake has been accused of being thin-skinned, just like he's been accused of being a flopper. You mentioned the incident in Vegas with the fan. Also, we gave him a pass because he was playing like an MVP and the Clippers were doing so well when he blatantly threw water on the fan during the game when he was being heckled. So if he had not broken his hand, just like I said about the video, it would not be such an issue. But since his team is in a playoff hunt, they're in the West, they need every game they can get, they need all of the bodies that they can get. And for him to be out, it extends the minutes you play Chris Paul. It extends when you have to play DeAndre Jordan in the fourth quarter when he can't make free throws. And now it throws your lineup out of whack. Yes, they've played well without him, but you need to have your head examined if you think they, A, need to trade him, B, that they're better without him.
One more thing about this incident. I went to the website of Soto Soto. They have a really delicious looking cream corn dish. I mean, it looks slamming.
But I want to ask you a question, because you said it makes it better because they're friends.
Yes.
What if he punched a team official or an NBA official and they weren't friends?
Worse. I think that you getting in this sort of heated argument is something that with people that you're close to is more common to me, and it's more understandable to me, and it's not just so much that that's a good thing, like, oh, it's good, it happens all the time. It's more like when you do it with strangers. You know what I mean? When you're just kind of like running around the world and then getting in fights with strangers and stuff.
I didn't say a stranger.
You know what I mean?
I said somebody that either worked for the team that he knew, but they weren't friends, or worked for the league that he knew, but they weren't necessarily friends.
I think that's worse. I think it's much worse. I think the fact they have this personal relationship puts this kind of physical altercation in play because there's a roadmap now to how it all happened. Oh, they were friends, they were messing around, and that's how it'll eventually, on this radio show, we're going to end up in a fist fight. Like it's almost 100% going to happen, and I'm going to win. A couple days ago, we had B.O.B. in a rap beef with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And
how much did I care about that?
If that didn't bring hip-hop down far enough, we now have Martin Shkreli has this to say about hip-hop legend, Wu-Tang member, Tony Stark's Iron Man, Ghostface Killah.
Dennis, I'm going to call you by your government name. You're not a Ghostface Killah. I'm sorry.
You're an old man that's lost his relevance, and you're trying to reclaim the spotlight from my spotlight.
if you ever say some dumb shit again, this album, this Shaolin, I'm gonna erase all your shit from this album. I'm gonna erase you from the record books of rap. You're gonna be done. You're my son. You have to listen to me. I butter your bread. You understand me? I expect you to write me a written apology from the heart. Some contrition, some long letter where you explain your sorrow and sadness for what you've done.
Now, if you don't hate this dude enough already, just from listening to that one bite, let me just explain to you who he is. He's an entrepreneur, financial, and pharmaceutical executive. And essentially, I'll make this quick, his company acquired a drug, a drug to treat AIDS, and he raised the price of that drug by 5,556%, making it unaffordable to a lot of the people that needed it. And if that wasn't bad enough, he got arrested by the FBI on charges of securities fraud, and then he's now released on bail. And why he has beef with Ghostface Killah? They made one album, just one copy of one album that they were going to sell. It was a really cool idea. They're going to sell it. I think they sold it for $2 million. And he is the guy that bought it. He hasn't shared it with anybody. He claims that he's going to perhaps hide it and never release it. And now, because Ghostface Killah said some not nice things about him, he's on this video, and you heard that sound, but what did it look like? What did the video look like, Jalen?
It looked like an individual with a couple of goons with them that was basically being a bully, having a face to what a lot of artists feel actually happens in the music industry. It's just that he's not a record executive, and it was flagrantly disrespectful. You're my son.
You are my son. And then he called him old.
I butter your bread. I'm going to erase you from history. Ghostface Killah, Shay Lagos, his legacy is more than one album that we haven't heard.
Exactly. I'm going to erase you from this album. Oh, you mean the album that no one can hear, so no one's going to hear me on the album that no one can hear?
Yeah.
That's your threat?
Right. If you're not... So... I tell the story about being at the BET Awards, running into the Wu-Tang Clan, in particular Ghostface. He had on his trademark bathrobe. He had on his trademark Iron Eagle. And it was a remix to what Slick Rick, Mr. T, used to be because he was rocking his truck jewelry. And all I remember was, I love him.
I love him too, so much. Now this fella, Martin Shkreli, went on TMZ and they asked him, like, are you worried about any repercussions of filming this video? He was like, no. And I just don't think this was a good strategic move from this man. I don't think this was a good move. I don't think this is going to end well for anybody. But one thing, just to pile on the disrespect, he tweeted this later. And this is disrespectful in so many ways. As mentioned in my video, I expect a written apology, Ghostface Killah, at least 500 words, no grammatical errors, and Shaolin stays intact. The no grammatical errors part is just so disrespectful. What do you think happens next?
I think if I'm Ghostface, I ignore him. I said what I had to say.
Can't do it. He won't do it.
Because I'll continue to make great music like he's done for a really long time.
And how does Martin Shkreli butter his bread?
I'll continue to do shows like he's done for a really long time.
And do you know where Martin Shkreli's going to go for a really long time?
Jail.
Exactly.
For a really long time.
So it's not even really worth wondering about. And I think that's the right thing for Ghostface Killah to do. I hope he does the right thing, but we'll see.
Ghostface Killah has lyrics on some of the most classic LPs in the history.
The Purple Tape comes to mind.
Of hip hop. In the history.
The Purple Tape comes to mind.
Of hip hop.
Yesterday we also had a little bit silly Twitter beef. This was between Kanye and Wiz. Now Kanye has now allegedly coming out on the 11th of February, and it was called Swish.
Who didn't see that they would eventually disagree when they have one said Amber Rose in common?
Are you related to Amber Rose?
I am not, but I am related in a rap song. Big shout Lil Wayne.
Oh, he tied you guys together in a rap song?
He did.
Oh, good for him. So Kanye changes the name of his album from Swish to Waves.
Max B.
Max B, and then Wiz just sort of mentions the fact that that's kind of Max B's thing.
It is.
And then Kanye goes on a tweet storm of about, 100 tweets where he says that Wiz stole his whole thing from Cudi, Kid Cudi. I love Kid Cudi. And he also said, quote, "You let a stripper trap you. I know you mad because every time you look at your child, that this girl got you for 18 years.
So here's a semantic that I want to point out. Amber Rose may be a stripper, but I haven't seen her sex tape. I've seen Kanye's wife's sex tape.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope Kanye isn't a big fan of the Jalen Jacoby show.
He knows it's out there.
It's out there?
So these two individuals going back and forth for public consumption, I don't think it's going to result in beef or a physical altercation.
No.
But it did have Amber chime in.
She did chime in. And she mentioned something that we won't explicitly mention, but she said something about what Kanye sort of likes. But then one thing that here's one thing I want to say about the first beef. Do you have any proof that the world is round?
I don't care. But I will say this.
The world's flat.
What she said about Ye in her response, I don't know if that's true, but for me, if that's the topic,
I'm glad this is the end of the segment.
You want to do what? What?
Reggie, give us a beat. It is time for rapid fire topics. You ready, Jalen?
Let's get it.
Steph and the Warriors, they didn't play that great last night. They didn't look great, especially in the first half against the Mavs. I think at the end of the first, Steph and Draymond were just, had a few points between the two of them. But guess what? Ended up waxing them.
Let me tell you, there are two royal families that come to mind. The Obamas and the Currys.
That's a good one. Now they're going to change the name of the new, the Warriors are going to have a new arena, and they're going to change the name to the Chase Center.
They getting money now.
I get that, but I really liked Oracle. It had a nice sound to it. The definition means it was a Silicon Valley company. I liked Oracle.
You like Oracle because it's almost like when somebody shoots your jumper, a guy say, like it had eyes when it goes in. But you also say money.
I see what you're doing there. The Wizards are the Bullets this evening. The Baltimore Bullets. Your thoughts?
I like the nostalgia doing it for an evening, but I also like the fact that they changed the name, which is why I'm one person. When I talk about a football team that plays on the East Coast, I call them Washington.
Real quick personal story. I was driving down the hill. It was icy, and I was going off the road to the right, so I corrected to go to the left, and I smashed into another vehicle, right? Luckily, everybody's okay. Everything worked out. But that was overcorrecting. I feel like they overcorrected when they went to the Wizards. You know what I mean? Like Wizards, like a wizard is just not, it doesn't intimidate me. Oh, here come the Wizards. Everybody look out. They're like old dudes.
But it's like a spell check on a smartphone. Like, I know the word I'm trying to use, and it keeps making me use a word that I don't want to use, and it takes longer for me to type a sentence.
Jalen, you just blew my mind when you went from Wizards to spell check. See what you did there? Next, after starting 19-13, they were looking great. Hot, new, young team in the East, talking about the Orlando Magic. Fournier was doing things, and I think Oladipo was in and out a little bit, Peyton. But guess what? Since then, last 12 games, 1 win.
Here's something simple for the fans to follow.
Let me know.
Playoff caliber teams have at least one guy playing at an all-star level, another guy that's having a breakout year.
Let me look at the roster of the East All-Stars. I don't see any Magic.
Contending teams have 2 all-stars. Championship level teams have 3. Players that are playing on that type of level.
Top of my head, I think only the Warriors have 3 All-Stars this year.
That's why they have what? The best record in the NBA.
And they're championship contending. Speaking of the All-Star games, Tyronn Lue is confirmed to be the coach of the Eastern All-Stars.
That's a no-brainer. They have the best record, and they fired their previous coach.
Wouldn't it be so much fun to see David Blatt coach LeBron?
No.
Wouldn't that be so much fun?
Can you say awkward?
It's very awkward, and that's why I would have enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed it so much. Just to see LeBron not come in until halfway through the second quarter.
The NBA is not the NFL on certain things. They're not going to sully their big moment with a deflate gate type of thing to try to bring down their most notable player in Tom Brady. The NBA is not going to do that. They're not going to create any distractions.
You know how else they're not like the NFL? People care about their All-Star game. Moving on.
So you care about the Pro Bowl?
No one cares about the Pro Bowl.
19,000th alternate?
No one cares about the Pro Bowl.
They should change that.
They really should. Even the Pro Bowl players don't care about the Pro Bowl. Shaquille O'Neal, last night on Jimmy Kimmel Live, shout out to Jimmy Kimmel Live, especially Cousin Sal, he learned that the Lakers are going to honor him with a statue.
Big shout to Shaquille O'Neal, the Diesel, who tweeted the Jalen and Jacoby show.
What?
Today.
Shaquille O'Neal?
And he acknowledged.
Was it like Byron Scott, like someone hacked into his thing and he said, like, no, was it really him?
And the big fella acknowledged that he appreciated me dropping the Rob Bass reference. I'm not a sucker, so I don't need a bodyguard.
You're also the biggest person in the world. You don't need a bodyguard. And a police officer.
He's also a police officer, registered to carry, and as you mentioned, one of the largest individuals to ever roam this earth.
Exactly.
For those that don't realize what he's doing with Jerome, his family, his brother, he's putting him on.
See, here's the thing. Shaq, he's a big star. He's literally one of the most recognizable people on the planet, right?
He has more commercials retired than he did playing.
He's probably too big to be on our ESPN 2 a.m. show, but maybe we can get Jerome. Can we get Jerome on the show?
We're going to go after both. And how about this? We talk about athletes with rap albums. The verse that Biggie gave Shaq, condos with
His
elevators
album
in them.
wasn't bad.
That's classic material.
We don't need no hooks. We don't need no hooks.
Last move, we ain't got nothing to prove. We're going to get the Diesel on the show.
Let's get him on the show. LaMarcus Aldridge had a tough game against the Warriors. He had a tough game on Monday night. I think he had 5 points. Just didn't play well. He was sad. After the game, he deleted his Twitter account.
You need a man with sensitivity. That's how I take it.
Like, come on, man.
If you're going to be on social media, be on social media. If you're not, don't.
If you're going to be on the NBA basketball court, people are going to say things about your performance. They're going to say negative things about your performance. People run. I bet if I went back into the Chicago Tribune archives, I could find extremely negative things written about Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
But you know what? Since he got named to the All-Star team, maybe now he'll start a new
He'll get it
one.
up again. Yeah, guess what? It'll pop back up. LaMarcus Aldridge is back on social media, everybody.
How about this? Perennial All-Stars. LaMarcus Aldridge got named to the team today. Dwight Howard, Kevin Love, who did not get named to the team.
Dude, should they have, though?
Do you think if you could give them some truth serum, sodium pentothal, would they change the opportunity to play for Houston and or Cleveland versus being on teams where they could still be all-stars and yet try to still lead that team to a
Let me
title?
answer that question by saying this. Those are two individual cases that are different. I think Kevin Love has a legitimate shot at a championship. I do not think Dwight Howard has a legitimate shot at the championship. So I would say that, Dwight Howard just keeps it moving, though. Like, I don't think he'll be on the Rockets next year. So I don't you know what? If I gave Dwight Howard truth serum, the first thing I would say, why did you have so many children?
Don't get fired.
Okay, let's move on.
You know, also what those teams have in common is that one was in the Western Conference Finals and inexplicably fired its coach in Kevin McHale, who, by the way, he had a tragedy in his family, and he rushed back to coach these dudes. And they rolled over on him and got him fired. And we know about the David Blatt scenario leading his team to the NBA Finals. But his job, once they traded for LeBron and traded for Kevin Love, the days were numbered.
How does Shaquille O'Neal get a statue? And I'm just going to say it right here on wax. We've had a campaign going for a long time. For what, Jalen?
Kobe Bryant, they should be talking about how they're erecting his statues and sending pictures out to their fan base who have to pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to watch a Lakers team play where he's going to perform in 25% of the game and they're going to be 100% in the lottery.
Don't you feel like the value of that ticket would go up and it would be worth it as a fan to watch the unveiling of that statue on that final home game?
It would, but when Forbes ranks you as one of the top 3 franchises per net worth, you're getting them checks.
You're familiar with Russell Wilson, right?
I am. A 2-time Super Bowl quarterback, 1 championship.
You know who he's dating, right?
Sierra,
Okay.
who's from Atlanta.
Hold on. He tweeted, he was just tweeting his affection for his girlfriend, to the world. I think that's kind of corny, but whatever. So he wrote,
You know why I think it's corny? I figured it out. Because you're married. Please continue.
exactly. He wrote, Women Crush Wednesday, quote, I kissed her and she had honey sweet lips that were lilac soft with a loving and affectionate personality. It's well written, right? Descriptive, honey sweet lips, lilac soft. So that's pretty good, right? Articulate fella, good vocabulary.
Deeper than Atlantis.
Here's the thing, the internet will always find you out. You can't hide from the internet streets.
They know.
They always
They
know.
know.
And you know what the internet found out? If you Google how to describe a beautiful woman, those phrases come out.
Corny.
Come on, Russ. Come on, but you're gonna Google how to describe a beautiful woman when you're writing something about your own girlfriend. Your own girlfriend doesn't inspire those kind of words from you on her own. Then you need to look somewhere else, man.
Sierra is beautiful. She's talented. She made a name for herself on her own. I give her a lot of credit. This dating Russell Wilson thing initially for a lot of people came as a shock. Allegedly in the past, and I'm not judging, being linked to Cam Newton, having a baby with Future. Future has a lot of fans.
Yup.
So therefore, when Russell loses, a lot of people are going to troll him and or her by saying, stupidly by the way, she should leave him all of a sudden because Russell lost a football game and go back to Future. It just shows you how low the self-esteem is for people that say that. But for Russell to Google how to describe a beautiful woman, I actually think that's more corny than your boys on the Monmouth bench dancing and creating choreography.
You know I hate the Monmouth bench. I can't stand these dudes. I loved them at first. At first I was like, oh, that's creative, that's cool. But then they kept doing it, and they kept getting on TV for it. And you know what? I hope I don't get fired. But maybe certain sports networks enabled them and encouraged this behavior. Because my thing about the Monmouth bench is, you should be practicing basketball. And
Not a game.
you should be practicing basketball because they clearly put a lot of work and effort into their antics, right? And there's something about cool. Cool is effortless. You can't practice cool. And they went from being, bench players on a basketball team, one injury away from being a part of a pretty good basketball team to being a dance troupe.
I love Mark Wahlberg and what he's done with his career and how he's reinvented himself. But to your point, there was a new addition and there was a new Kids on the Block.
I have some information from inside Bristol headquarters. The Monmouth bench was there today.
Stop it right now.
And one of our producers had to avoid them in the cafeteria because they were cheering for the chicken noodle soup. Facts only. Like, it's just gotten corny. Like, they're not going to go to the NBA, they're going to go to Cirque du Soleil. You know what I mean? It's just gotten to the point where I'm done with them. I think that we are enabling them. We're not even going to talk about them anymore. We're going to talk about your boy Cam Newton.
You know what else I'm done with? People saying that Cam is a villain. Cam is not a villain. Right now, this is Cam's era. He's in the Super Bowl. Big smile. Why? Because he's camera ready. The nickname, Superman. By the way, there have been 15 million Supermans.
I don't like the nickname.
But I have a couple of descriptions for Cam Newton. David Blaine, a magician. Cam Newton, hip hop. Can't define him. Can't put him in a box. And I remember when hip hop first started, as somebody that's black from the inner city, we wanted to hold on to it and keep it only for us. We didn't want you guys to listen to it. We didn't want you guys to rap about it. I remember being at concerts.
What do you mean by you guys? Why you gotta look at me?
Absolutely. people that are not black
Okay.
per se.
Okay.
I remember being at a Nitro tour with LL Cool J and Houdini, and Jermaine Dupri was bouncing out there on the Elite. When they bounced out on the Elite, young Jermaine Dupri was a dancer. And the Beastie Boys being on stage. And if you've ever listened to hip hop, there are some words being said in hip hop that are relegated for only blacks, per se. Now, hip hop went from being just ours to being shared by the masses. It's corporate and it infused dollars into the game. It created so many moguls. It made hip hop larger than life. So much so on Christmas Day, I saw LeBron James playing Welcome to the Terror Dome in a commercial. That's how far we've come. And again, how this relates to Cam, he's uniting us like hip hop united us. And I remember being with my 10 friends as we caught the Finkel bus downtown to the concert, trying to see how our fellow white comrades who enjoy hip hop as well, how were they going to respond when certain words were said?
Oh.
And you know what you learn in that moment? They're not being derogatory towards me. They're enjoying the music that I love. And they're saying some words that if they were said in a vacuum, if they were said out of anger, then that would be a whole different situation.
Okay.
And so he's actually uniting us the way Steph Curry is uniting us. They just look different. And he just so happens to play the quarterback position.
That's a strong memory for you, right?
It is, but here's another memory. And for us blacks, there will be those that say, Cam not unanimous MVP? Like, Tom Brady got a vote? Like, Carson Palmer got a vote? What? He not the unanimous MVP in the Super Bowl? You already know Cam Newton about to throw for 350 in the Super Bowl, rush for 100, and have 4 TDs. I'm already putting it out there. He's going to MVP. But here's also what we got to stop doing. Keeping him to ourselves. And when we saw dabbing go mainstream,
Sure did.
y'all took it from us.
Hillary Clinton did it.
And you know what we said? We don't want it anymore.
No,
It's not cool. But it reminds me of the Dave Chappelle draft. We don't want you guys to share Cam. We want to keep him to ourselves. But you know what? Cam is a uniter. When he scores and he gives the football to somebody, he doesn't care
gives
about their
footballs to
race.
kids.
He doesn't care about their
No.
age. When he has a big smile and he shows up to serve families on Christmas, he's doing it for everyone.
So that concert-
The uniter, Cam Newton.
That was a strong memory for you, right? I have a strong memory. It was from this morning. And we talked about this. And that strong memory was me saying, Jalen, we probably shouldn't talk about this on the show, right? We probably shouldn't talk about this on the show. Do you remember that memory?
What had happened was...
What happened was once the mics turned on, there we go. And that's why I love doing the show with you.
Gotta
You're
get what they
listening
want.
To Jalen
Gotta get what they
Jacoby
need.
on ESPN Radio. You don't forget, you can always catch us on ESPN2 late at night.